Welcome to Desi Return Diaries, Embracing Home Again, the podcast that shares personal journeys and expert insights on returning to India. I'm your host, Avinash Pedi, here to guide and inspire you on your Desi return journey. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Desi Return. Today, I'm really excited to introduce our guest, Ravi, who moved to India after living in Australia for more than a decade. And he has a successful entrepreneur journey after moving back to India, which I'm really excited. There are a lot of topics that we're going to cover and looking forward to our discussion. With that, welcome Ravi to our show.
Thanks, Avinash, for having me. Thank you.
That's great. So why don't we get started with your background and the reason to move back to India?
Sure. Well, of course, my background has been born and brought up in Hyderabad, India. Lived here for all my life. Then worked with my father's family for a long time. We are in the FMCG, food and beverage space. 10 years with my father's business. And then we decided that probably life needs a change. Maybe for a better lifestyle or for a better learning curve, we decided to go back to or probably explore new opportunities in Dubai and Australia. And we settled down for Australia. Went down to Australia and lived there for quite a while. And I think loved being in Australia, loved the way people live there. Amazing place, made great friends there. And eventually one fine day decided to come back to India.
That's great. So it's the intent to explore and learn more in brought you to or took you to Australia. And what is that one fine day or sounds like you always have this in the back of your mind to return back to India after few years abroad. So however, maybe you can explain the thought process of the journey you had. Is there any particular trigger point that made you to move back and how long you planned for the move?
Honestly, Avinash, no, that was not in plan. Moving back to India was very unfortunate because of a news that my dad was fighting cancer in India. That made me and my wife, along with kids, come back to India. Initially, the plan was ideally to look at my parents moving to Australia with us. We had even plans of getting them settled. My dad was curious to what he could do, so we were even looking at business opportunities which my dad could actually get into. But unfortunately, that plan did not last for long. The news broke out that my dad was fighting cancer, and at that time of the year or that time of the life, I did not want him to move to Australia and then struggle with Australian lifestyle. There's no health support as such in terms of the health industry. So we thought probably be a better place to go back to India, be with my dad, and help him fight what he was into. And we decided one fine morning that we have to go, and within a matter of just 5 weeks, we winded up everything that we had, sold all the furniture, fixtures of the house. And then by February 2020, I think we were back over here in India. So it was not planned as such. We wanted to stay back in Australia for a longer time, but destiny had its own story to go by it.
Oh yeah, thanks for providing that context. So sounds like I think you're preparing in the other way there, other way around, having the entire family to be abroad and the destination, it's written in a different way. So maybe you can tell a little bit, for how long were you in Australia, and in terms of the plan for the move, these 5 weeks, how how did it go? Anything that you wanted to share for the future aspirants were thinking, what should consider, or any other insights from your perspective?
I think we lived in Australia for close to about 7 years, 2014 to 2020 kind of a time period. Starting of 2014 was when we reached Australia. I think the entire journey or the entire experience of living in Australia was fantabulous. We just loved the place because the kind of day-to-day challenges that we experienced being an entrepreneur in India was absolutely not kind of a challenge in Australia. Uh, as most of the NRIs would agree, that a country anywhere abroad, developed countries, the basic amenities of life are already easily available. You don't really have to fight for it. which makes our life much more comfortable and easier. And especially because I was not an entrepreneur in Australia and I was committed to a job, I think that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job was much more comforting to me than having the stress level or the pressure of being an entrepreneur. That is why I think we enjoyed our kids grow up in Australia, right from the first year of my son. Probably by the time he came back, he was already 8 or so. So I could really spend a great amount of time with my family, see my kids grow, which probably in India, especially coming from a business family, it's very hard to find. um, I always say that अगर बाहर जाना हो तो कोशिश करो कि you work for a good organization which gives you less stress rather than getting into a business which is very stressful. But rather, otherwise, if you're excited about something, do a small business of yourself which keeps the ball rolling, which you enjoy thoroughly. When we decided to come back to India, honestly, Avinash, it was a very painful thought because it was just a little above 1 year that we had actually constructed our own house in Sydney. And as any couple, we had great dreams and ambitions of how the building should look like, how the interior is going to be like. We had all these kind of dreams because honestly, it was my first of its own kind. I mean, the house where I live in India was built by my dad, but the one which I built in Sydney was built by me and my wife put together. So we were very excited about it, and every furniture and fixture, anything to do with interiors was well thought with my wife. She took big decisions there, uh, and we set it up. But just a little over a year when news broke out, we had to literally sell away all the furniture in a matter of just 2 to 3 weeks. And I still remember when the first furniture, I think it was one of the cupboards in the dining area, which was sold out to somebody else. I and Anuja literally had tears in our eyes because we were so emotionally attached to that dream that we were building on.
Yeah.
And we had to sacrifice it because of a bigger cause that we had to go, let it go. And one after the other, everything got sold out. Thankfully, we did not sell the house away. It's still there. And hopefully one day, if in case things go good, if you I would want to go back, there's always an option or a door open for us. But
Yeah.
that 5 weeks period of selling away everything was very, very painful.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine, especially you have a timeline to meet, and you just like emotionally attached. I think that's the biggest part, right? I think
Yeah.
yeah, the dreams and then sudden change in the life and the decision. So if you're okay, like how is the family now, and how things are going after moving back to India?
Um, we moved in India in February 2020, and March 2020, we all know that COVID struck. We all went for a 1 year break, and that was the moment my father was actually fighting cancer. Unfortunately, in the earlys of mid of 2021, my father passed away, which was very painful for us because we had been with him for almost a year and a little above a year just to help him and support him fight it out. But unfortunately, uh, things were not as we planned. But so far, everything is going good. Now we are settled in Hyderabad in India. And I think as a pure Desi, one can definitely agree that you mix with the culture very soon. It's not that I've lived in Australia for a lot of time. Like it's not like 3, 4 decades or something where it becomes really difficult. But yes, there has been few challenges adapting back to Indian culture, the way people work and live over here. It's a bit of a challenge, but thankfully, best part is my kids did not have the similar issue. They were pretty adaptive, easily flexible to understand why we have come down. And if my kids had found it difficult, then it might have been very difficult for us to continue in India. But thankfully, that was not the case because a lot of NRI community people who come back, either they go back because the kids do not like it over here, or for reasons that they do not adjust to the work culture of India.
Yeah. So I'm very sorry about the loss, but I think glad that the family was able to spend time, at least for some good amount of time, like 1.5 year towards the end. So I know you think you kind of touched about the kids adjustment, like how old were the kids? I think you kind of mentioned it's like 8 years old when your son. So maybe if you can put some color to kids adjustment, I think that would give some insights for the people who are listening to the show.
Yeah. So when we reached Australia, my son was about a year old, and my daughter was about 6 years old, I would think. And by the time we came back 7 years later, Arnav had touched 8, and my daughter was close to about 13, 14. So it was not too late for them to adapt to Indian culture, I would say. That is a moment where you can, take them to different countries, make them understand and adjust, and they're pretty flexible, hands-on. Um, but yeah, that's how it's been. And one of the most important thing as a NRI coming back to India was finding them a good school, because the way the education system is back out there in Australia, coming back and looking for a state syllabus or a central syllabus CBSE course could not really work for them. They had a different way of education in Australia, so I wanted to give them an international syllabus to work upon. Otherwise, it would get very hard for them to cope up with the education system also, and that would actually add to their stress level, eventually falling on to me then.
Yeah. I think switching gears a little bit, I know after moving back to India, I don't know if you have planned to continue the 9 to 5 job that you kind of enjoyed a little bit, or want to take on this entrepreneur journey. And if so, I know there has been successful story. Would love to hear about it. Some of the things that you have to go through while establishing that in India, because especially that could be something very important for some of the NRIs who are thinking about moving to India because they couldn't start their own um, company or journey, like, from an entrepreneur side in abroad. So it definitely would be good to know how easy is it to do the business in India, and also maybe your own journey, right? After moving back to India, what were you thinking and how did you go from working in 9 to 5 in Australia to like maybe an entrepreneur journey? Yeah.
Yeah, firstly, Avinash, I was very clear that Australia, I didn't want to do business because I think I had enough 10 years of experience of doing business in India with my father. And typically, what happens is there is a restriction in terms of your learning capacity when you're doing a family business. You cannot go beyond a certain point in terms of knowledge gain. That is why we were very clear that in Australia we would get into a job, because I wanted to understand how brands are built, how bigger companies culture is, and how do people really perform. And thankfully, with the discipline that I come in, I could adjust pretty well to the 9 to 5 job. I would think that I did pretty well as well in the span of 7, 8 years that I've lived over there. The best part about living in Australia was that there is a very great amount of work-life balance that Australian work culture provides you. There is no employer I can think of who would really pressurize you to take work upon your life or your family. It's always family, safety, and life that comes first in Australia, and then comes the work. So I think that kind of culture really helped me to work over there. But when I was returning back, and I still believe so, that I would never, I mean, that's just my personal choice. Please excuse me on this. But I would never work for another employer in India, because I believe that I understand the Indian culture and the Indian ecosystem as much that I can better work for myself rather than work for somebody else. And I've always been an entrepreneur throughout my life. I've always had the zeal to do something of my own. And that is why when I was returning back to India, I was very certain and very clear that I'm going to do something of my own and rather not work for somebody else. Because all that knowledge that I'd gained in the last 7 years working with the F&B giants in Australia, I thought it's time to put those skills to test, start an entrepreneurial journey here. And we did that. And when we came back to India, we came in with a concept called ice popsicles, wherein there are a lot of good brands in the US, UK, Australia in the ice popsicle category, but we did not find anything in India at all. And thankfully, we launched a brand called Skippi Ice Pops, which by God's grace today is a very popular brand, I would like to believe. We were telecasted on a national television series called Shark Tank India on Sony TV, I think on December 27, 2020. Uh, and sorry, 2021, not 2020. Oh, yes, 2021. And after the launch of this, or the day when the telecast happened, the entire proportion of brand popularity, me and my wife, who are both the co-founders of the company, we became popular. People started to recognize us in the ecosystem, and everything took off very well for us. We are pretty humbled by the gesture God has given to us. But in terms of entrepreneurial journey, I would say, and I'm a great example towards this because I've done business in the past and I've done it now. So there's a huge amount of difference that I can actually bring and discuss here in terms of how business was happening in the past and how it is happening today. I think previously, before I moved to Australia, there was a lot of red carpet issues, lot of compliance issues that we had to go with. Firstly, in terms of taxation, there was like C form, H form, this form, sales tax, VAT, which was so confusing and so lethargic that it would really be difficult for us to expand our business or focus on our business growth rather than getting into these kind of a complicated process system which was there with the government of India then. Roadways was not great, which was again a complex. Shipping out things from point A to point B was always challenging. Technology was less at the same time. But today, honestly speaking, with the onset of GST, things have become like plain vanilla for us. It's very simple, straightforward. With the great amount of infrastructure that India has developed in terms of roadways, etc., that has become great. Technology, people from the IT background will agree that technology wise, there are a lot many more job opportunities now in India than it was earlier. And I think somehow the Indian ecosystem, the work culture has also adapted to international standards where there is maybe not equal, but almost to the power of equality balance between the life and the work life balance, you know. So I think today it's a great opportunity for people to look at entrepreneurial journey in India because believe me, the next 5 to 10 years is all about India and no other country. We will continue to grow at a great level. People who are having faith in India, moving in now and starting their own entrepreneurship journey will have more opportunities to be super successful than people who come after 5 or 10 years. Because every corner of India, there is a challenge. And to solve this challenge, I always see an opportunity, which is a business opportunity that you can actually start. Which sometimes in those developed countries, it's hard to find opportunities because everything looks so perfect there. I hardly find anything that I could actually get into. But here we got into a food and beverage brand, and imagine a country of 140 crores. We ourselves are an entire European nation in itself. We ourselves are larger than one of the largest countries in the world. So I think there's no need for us to look for markets outside of India. India itself is such a large marketplace, I would think. So it's a great time for us to be in India.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, congratulations on the Skippi. It's a very popular brand. Kids know about it, so and it's a very successful journey for you. So congratulations on that. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for sharing, your story in terms of the differences because you've been in the business before moving to Australia, right? In terms of where it was, and then I agree with you. I think the ecosystem in India right now, in terms of the growth, in terms of the opportunities, it just the population is one thing, the rapid adoption of the technology with the mobile phones. There's several factors that are combining the age of the population that's kind of fueling some of these macro level dynamics for the growth here in India. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities, as you said, and it's just riding the wave, compared to like a developed country where a lot of these things seem solved and you're trying to implement something similar or trying to solve these problems in a different scenarios here in India.
Yep.
Cool. In terms of sounds like you did some enough research to launch your product. I think you kind of narrow it down to Ice Popsicle, and based on your background as a family business, where you worked and so on. So just curious. So from your perspective, if somebody is considering to move back to India to do their own entrepreneur journey or startup, are there any suggestions that you would give, like anything that they have to do as a research before they move or after coming back? And in terms of even like some of the administrative work, right, like setting up a company, some of these things, if you have any insights that you can suggest, that would be also very helpful.
Avinash, to be honest, anyone who's living abroad or even people who are looking to move back to India wouldn't have deep pockets to hire a market research company. To be honest, uh, I come from an F&B space, but the rule applies to whether you're from an IT background or you're from an engineering background. Research is very important, and as a startup, obviously we don't have too much of money on us, which we can spend on a research company. When we decided to come back to India, and this is an example which a lot of people can use, we knew that Ice Popsicle was a great brand in Australia. It was a great market category. But we also knew that there was absolutely no brand that I had heard of in the Ice Popsicle category from India. But I was sitting in Australia. How do I know about it? So picked up my phone, spoke to 7 to 8 friends of mine across different parts of India and told them, hey, ja, dukaan mein jaake pooch ice popsicle kaun sa hai, you know. I asked them to go and fetch 4 ice popsicles, buy them from different stores. And as usual, most of these buggers were lazy. I had to keep following up with them several times. And finally, a lot of people came back said, Ravi, यहाँ पे तो ice popsicle क्या है पता भी नहीं है, ice Pepsi पता नहीं है. There are no brands in the stores, nothing at all. And this came in from 6 to 7 friends of mine from different parts of India. And that gave me a little bit of confidence that, okay, yaar, I am very certain now that there's no brand as such. And it was completely on my gut feeling. I thought, yaar, India is 140 crore population, so it's such a hot and humid destination. I'm sure this thing will work. But of course, there are risks attached to it. It's not as simple as I say it. So I would think that in case if somebody is planning to come back to India, whether he's coming from a technology background or he's an engineering, or if he's wanting to set up a manufacturing unit for himself, maybe it could be in textile or anything else, basic research is really important. This research could not be necessary secondary or primary. If it is possible, he could travel to India, look around into the market, get a feel of it. If he finds it very positive, then he can go back and prepare to come back to India. There are a huge amount of consultants today who are industry experts. You could possibly even hire them to get an understanding of the overall picture of the market, and they are not very expensive as such. In terms of registering a company, getting started, believe me, India has got very evolved ecosystem of good company secretaries and chartered accountants who can do the entire groundwork and paperwork ready for you. All you need to come sign it off and your company is up and running. So these are not very difficult challenges these days. As long as you're working with good professionals, they will take care of you in a very significant way. But yes, basic market research, if you can afford it in terms of hiring a consultant, or probably coming when you're traveling to India on holiday, just go and meet a couple of other vendors or manufacturers and try to gauge the the requirement or the demand in the market. I'm sure you'll get a good feedback. And based on that, whether you want to get into that industry or not, that's something that you need to decide.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing those thoughtful information about the research and how you even approach in your case, right? Like asking the friends to go in different stores and find the information. Now switching gears a little bit, in terms of your social life, how has it been going? I think when you moved, it was the COVID, which made it a little bit difficult to mingle with family and friends. So just curious, I know it's been about 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years. So how has been the social life and family adjusting and so on after moving back to India?
I think I'm a very social person in the first place. I love to talk to people, make friends, socialize with people. Especially, there is again a comparison between Australia and India. Initially, when we moved to Australia, it was damn lonely. I would think that I was even depressed for a lot of days, saying that why did I even come to Australia in the first place? Because for a person who loves to meet people, talk to people, and share his days, feelings, or whatever, it's important to make friends faster and quicker. And in Australia, I struggled in the initial days. Only until a few years passed by, I actually started making very good friends out there. In India, of course, we came back. It took us a bit of time to understand and adjust to the cycle of Indian culture again, because people walk in, walk out any time of the day. You keep getting calls either from marketing companies or you get calls from your friends and family late in the evening. Also, they wouldn't even worry whether 8 o'clock ho gaya hai, 10 baj gaye. They feel free to call up, right? So it gets a bit of time for you to adjust to that. Traffic conditions in India is crazy. People, I mean, I really struggle and I hate driving in India, to be honest, because no matter what car you're driving, still there's no pleasure traffic, driving bumper to bumper across. So culture-wise, India has been different, but not completely alien to me. I think it took hardly any time for me to come and adjust over here. Friends and family have been very supportive over here, and was pretty easy for us to set across.
Cool. In terms of the things that you miss back in Australia versus here, anything that you miss? Is just more of a curious question. And the things that you don't like in India, from your experiences, for I think you kind of touched on the traffic, just comparing the contrast for people who are considering about the move. Yeah.
In Australia, the first thing that I really miss about Australia is a stress-free life. I mean, this is a very important point that people talk about stress level in India and Australia, or even the US, to name a few. But I think these other countries have stress at a physical level. That means you're doing your own hardships of cleaning the utensils, or probably cleaning the house, spending your weekends with your family, trying to get things aligned, washing your cars, getting the groceries and stuff like that, which is a physical stress. But in comparison to the mental stress that you get in India, I think it is better to have a physical stress rather than mental stress. Because I personally believe a lot of unfortunate diseases or health issues which arise in India is because of the mental stress. And it is better you get away from mental stress and focus on having a better physical stress. The other thing that I miss about Australia is a clean air. I clearly remember breathing so well and enjoying the fresh air in Australia, especially because Australia is even more less populated than US or European countries. We used to really enjoy the fresh air that was available for us, and that's the most part of it. And of course, working Monday to Friday and giving 2 days off in a week was like it has been a very treacherous moment for me. And unfortunately, now that I'm back in India as an entrepreneur, forget about 6 days, but we are working almost 7 days a week without a break, which is adding to our stress levels. And of course, apart from talking about what I don't like about India, I do not like the pollution. I do not like the traffic here. And unfortunately, there are still that mindset of people that chalta hai, that chalta hai attitude is very troublesome, because people take things for granted over here. They don't keep their commitments many a times, which is very challenging. But I'll tell you the other flip side of India, the kind of emotional bonding that you get with your friends, childhood friends, your family, cousins in India, you are very unlikely to get that kind of a strong bonded friends in any abroad countries, because usually friends align in those countries for being together. It's not an emotional attachment, but rather they want to socialize and be together. So I think that's a massive difference. Person who wants to be emotionally connected, India is a place where you've got friends and family who are truly connected to you. But when it comes to the other side, pollution, challenges of maintaining good commitments, and traffic, I think these are the biggest challenges in India as of today as well.
Yeah, thanks for providing that candid feedback. And these are real challenges, and people have to think which is more important to them and make the right decision. So again, there is not a 100% perfect place where everything is set properly. It's just like, what's your priorities, and make the decision appropriately, and where you are in your journey, and what kind of a lifestyle you want to maintain and want to lead. With that said, are there any topics that we haven't covered that you would like to bring up that could help the future aspirants?
I think one important thing that I would like to bring up over here is a lot of time the NRI community are very perplexed whether they should move back to India or not. But I think it is very important for people to know that if you have a basic revenue model, I mean, whether you're an employee or you're an employer, if you're able to make a little bit of healthy revenue for yourself month on month, India does provide you a very healthy, happy lifestyle as well. There are, especially, since you're in Hyderabad, you will agree with me. There are communities and gated communities which has the best of amenities. They've got swimming pools and badmintons and great culture, great community, where I think a family can thrive really well. The cost of living in India is still competitive compared to the other countries. You've got the Swiggies and Zeptos of India, which gives you delivery of food and groceries in 5 minutes. You're not wasting your time going to a grocery stores and picking up vegetables for yourself. I think in case if you're thinking of coming to India, I think this is the best time for you guys to be in India. And it's not really that scary even. It takes a couple of weeks or maybe a few months for you guys to adjust. But once you're here, there is a different lifestyle that you can choose. You can choose the one where you're living in one of the best places for your family and friends. You can live among with your friends and families. You can choose to be an employer or an employee, and it does not really cost you as much as it would probably in the overseas country. So I think don't think too much. In case if you want to take your chances, yes, life is all about taking chances. Feel free, come down to India, give it a shot. Otherwise, I'm sure 3-4 years down the line, in things that doesn't work out, feel free to go back. Why worry so much about it?
Yeah, definitely. Is it an irreversible decision or a reversible decision, depending on how much time you want to spend making that decision? That's an important factor. And I think, this is something that I hear from a lot of people is like when you visit India, if you have the flexibility, take a little bit longer and try to live and not just like as a visitor. Just take like some of these furnished apartments or places and then try to live. I mean, you get a better feel for the lifestyle living in India, which would also help in your decision making process.
Yeah, it is. It is important, and of course, even from an investment point of view, also India is great, right? Compared to the way India is growing, I think this is a better place for you to grow. So you might as well come here, live here, probably invest in an apartment or something like that, live here for a few years, and if you do not like it, yes, who's stopping you? India is very free to allow people to go outside. Keep your passports ready. Maybe that is what would help you.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you very much, Ravi, for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. A lot of nuggets there, especially on the entrepreneur journey in terms of the social life, in terms of the things like the candid feedback, in terms of the things that you like and you don't like living in India. I hope this episode is very helpful for you guys. And thanks a lot for your time, Ravi, and appreciate you taking the time and good luck with everything. And wish you all the best and wish Skippi to reach even higher levels and national brand. I know the story was to be as a logo on the Indian cricket team. I'm really looking forward to that, and congratulations on that. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Avinash, for having me here, and thanks a lot, everyone, to hear me out here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all for joining us on this insightful journey of Desi Return. If you enjoyed this episode and want to explore more stories and expert advice, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts and experiences. By the way, check out the links in the description below for our Facebook group and social media for updates and engaging discussions, as well as connecting with fellow Desi Returners. Thank you once again, and until next time, may your Desi Return journey be filled with joy, growth, and endless possibilities.